Hello, good evening. Good evening, everybody.
Hi, I remember it. One News Express. Can I have?
Absolutely.
You want to?
I'm used to it by now.
Yes. And the movie that has done the awesome.
Yes.
Oh
God. You are still.
Friends, Adil Hussain is the lead actor in Hotel Salvation, which is Mukti Bhavan, which has got him a national award. But the film itself has been screened, 25 countries.
More actually, I can do today 35 countries.
35 countries, and it ran for 100 days in Japan.
We're still running. Today is 105th day.
150 days. Only Rajnikant had that credit back in Japan, and which is absolutely remarkable. Adil is known for his critically acclaimed performances in award-winning films such as Ang Lee's Oscar-winning Life of Pi, Subhashish Bhutiani's Hotel Salvation, which we saw today, Imam Haq's What Will People Say, Denis Stanovich's Tigers, Meera Nayak's The Reluctant Fundamentalist, Tayan Nalin's Angry Indian Goddesses, Parho Sengupta's Sunrise, Italo Spinelli's Gangor, Prashant Nayak's Umrika, Leena Yadav's Parched, and Buddhayan Mukherjee's The Violin Player. He is widely known for his roles in English, in which he stars opposite the celebrated actress Sridevi, Maya Charles, Ayari, etc. He has acted in Hindi, Bengali, Assamese, Malayali and Tamil films as well as in many Indo-European art house films. With that kind of CV, I have no idea if there is anyone else, either in Bollywood or Hollywood or Tollywood or wherever. He has worked in 70 films so far. Does anybody know, do you by any chance know Adil? Whether anybody has any, this
I have
kind
no
of-
idea. No, I don't know.
You don't know. That's absolutely remarkable.
No, I don't know. I'm sure that I know quite a lot of my co-actors, friends, those who have acted in definitely 4 or 5 languages, yes.
Yeah, but Irfan and
Yeah.
Om Puri and
Yeah.
a few people, but not in this kind of very good films in India, in Europe, and which is remarkable.
I'm very lucky to also be found by these directors and scripts, keep finding me sitting I live in Delhi. And being in Delhi, it is supposed to be, a lot of people think that I should be in Bombay, but I feel that somehow that Delhi saves me from a lot of the paraphernalia which comes with the film industry. So I'm saved from all that gloss and glitter.
What sense?
Unnecessary. No, all these parties and I love parties, but it should not be compulsory for me. It should be voluntary. I must feel like going there. But then, what are you wearing and all those nonsense questions, I can't handle them. So I'm saved from all that. And whenever they invite me, I keep saying that, I live in Delhi. Oh, acha, you live in Delhi. Okay.
Well, I
So-
could have done that for you.
No, that's okay. Yeah.
So said from the power of being dressed up like Manish Malhotra, some of those characters. One sees Bollywood parties and these girls come out dressed up like, that was their lost.
Yeah, I just don't understand, are we models or are we supposed to be actors, So I'm in love with acting and I think that my work should get over as soon as I finish the shoot or dubbing or whatever you call it. And rest of the things is not my job, it's the producer's job to promote the film or...
Are there any current projects or future ones that you are really passionate about and you're working on?
Yeah, I have just finished, I came back home after 3.5 months I finished 3 films, 4 actually, and in the lead, one Khasi film which I've done for the first time that I forgot to mention. That's my first Khasi language film, set in Shillong. It's a micro-budget film. There's no budget. So the vehicle that I have to go from the hotel that they put me up and to the location was the property that I use, which is a scooter. So it's a red scooter, Bajaj, old one.
Wow.
So I use that as a property to go, as my vehicle to go and reach the locations. And the other film I did called Nirvana Inn, with a salvation, then Nirvana Inn. It's a paranormal thriller. It's the second film of the director. His first film called Revelations, Revelation, I forgot. It's on Netflix. His name is Vijay Jaipal. And the other film I did, directed by Gautam Ghosh, who won 16 national awards, and this is his first Hindi film after 16 years or 12 years, called Rahagir, which is based on the two people, man and woman, from the tribal belt of Madhya Pradesh. I played the man, of course. And the other film I did with Prakash Jha, in the lead, which is based on a true story. We just finished shooting that in Jharkhand. So these are the 4 films I did in the last few months, and yeah.
Revelation is already on Netflix.
Revelation is, I'm not there in the film, that's his first film,
Okay.
which is because I saw the film, I liked it.
Of these digital releases of Netflix.
This is all just been finished, so they are still, looking at different kinds of releases across the world. It's mostly art house films, but most probably Prakash Jha's film is somewhere in the middle, like English was. Yeah, so it's a beautiful film. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hussain, it's truly a dream come true to be face to face with you. I work for a Japanese newspaper called the Asahi Shimbun,
Okay.
and I understand that matters of life and death evoke perennial interest. But I'm also very curious, if you forgive me for answering this question. It must be religiously very difficult for you, was it, to go to Varanasi? I have myself been to Mukti Bhavan. So was it religiously difficult for you to relate to all the Hindu rituals? What was it like?
No, I grew up in a household where I was free to practice and participate in the Saraswati Puja. I offered Anjali. I used to sing Kirtan for the famous Bhakti movement mystic, and also he was the first person who wrote the first Assamese drama play called Chinna Yatra. His name is Shankar Dev. And I used to always participate in his birth ceremonies every year and sang his songs. I played Holi, I did Deepavali lights. So our household was completely, yes, absolutely. Though my father was an expert in Quran and Shariat and all that, he spoke 6 languages fluently: Persian, Arabic, Urdu, English, Assamese, Bengali. So I grew up in a household which was completely free of all these prejudices. So I had no issues whatsoever. In fact, I feel very comfortable. I studied a lot of Vedic texts, and Gita is one of my most favorite textbooks, which gave me insights into my life. So, no, not at all.
Okay, the 105th day
Yes.
in Japan.
Yes.
Have you met any Japanese audiences what have they shared with you about the film?
Unfortunately, I could not go to Japan for the release, nor we were thinking of now that I must visit Japan. I've never been there at all. But the people, those who came to interview the director, and I happened to pass by one day, and one of them that I spoke to, they relate to it so much. Somehow, because we are connected in terms of their philosophical understanding, and they're connected with Indian philosophy, they practice Buddhism, most of them there. So, and my search to answer questions about death since 1995, since the time I graduated from National School of Drama, also ended up reading a lot of Zen practices and their ideas of death and life. So I realized that why they have connected with this particular film so much, for the simple reason that also the most probably the demography is also the Japan has a lot of the majority of the population, I guess, of aged population, and in the modern life, the kind of very, very stressful life that they lead, and the confrontation with the old, the traditional belief system is very, very stark there. So they must be relating to it the way people across the globe has related to this film, as I have related as well.
You should go for the Cherry Blossom Festival.
I would love to.
Hi, Adil.
Hi.
Although we informally talked about your upcoming project with Manisha Koirala,
Yes.
could you please tell about this project in detail, if it would be relevant to disclose?
It is not yet official. I'm about to sign the contract. Maybe next week. So I'm just saying that we're doing a project we're shooting in Atlanta. It's going to be directed by Geeta Malik, who's a second generation Indian American. That much I can, yes.
मनीषा कोइराला के बारे में आपका क्या, मनीषा कोइराला को आप कैसे डिफाइन करते हैं?
Well, I've seen her since ages. She's younger than me according to the birth date that I found out. And I felt, since the time I first seen her on the screen, she came across as so graceful. The beauty has certain purity, which most probably, I don't know what are the reasons, and I had a crush on her. And,
Because he's from Nepal.
yes. And yeah.
Purity is there.
We all fell in love with her, and me, which I'm included in that club of lovers and admirers. Yeah.
Thank you.
But another thing which I also have spoken about Sridevi, because someone asked me about Sridevi's talent. I thought that actors like Manisha Koirala and Sridevi, they did not get what they deserved in terms of the scripts, the roadmap towards exploiting, I would say, is the word, or exploring the potential of acting that they have. We have failed these actors. I think they are equally capable of being at par with Meryl Streep, given the possibilities and opportunities, but they were not given that. We did not have good enough scripts for them. They were kept as ornamentation in the films that they're acting in.
Then could you say that in the upcoming project, Manisha would get
Yes.
strong role?
Yes. She is going to play, I think, the role of her life in this film.
Thank you.
Adil,
Yes, please.
I agree with you that Sridevi didn't really get the kind of
Yes.
Because Bollywood, they're so shallow films, I'm afraid.
I can't say that publicly.
And the fact that she acted in 292 films
Yes.
without being terribly literate, she simply memorized her lines
Yes.
and delivered those lines and in such convincing fashion.
Yes.
What was it like working with her in Gauri Shinde's English Winglet?
Well, it was very sudden that I suddenly was offered that role, and I was like, oh, that's very interesting, because I saw she's my age, she's like 4 or 5 years younger than me, and I never thought that I would be acting with her, because when I came into the film industry, she left acting, and I never thought about it at all. It never crossed my mind that I'll be working with her one day. And when I was given offered the role, and I was like, oh, that's very interesting. And the first thing, so when I first met her in a rehearsal, And I went to the room when there was this makeshift set, and we were supposed to improvise a scene. But before the improvisation, when the cameras were being set up and all that, so I met her and I said, I saw your film called Sapna, and I did not eat for 2 days. I was so deeply touched and moved. I was 15 and she was 15 as well. And she had moist eyes after hearing what I said. Because most probably she felt the sincerity and honesty. I really meant it, and I felt that. And I was just describing my experience, watching her performance, in an impressionable age. And then we went to the stage, and the director, Gauri Shinde, she said, Adil, do not start from where the script starts. You just, think of something before how you enter the scene. I said, okay. So I came in and I saw a piece of paper on the table. I said, bill kab aaya? And to my utter surprise, so ye bill kab aa? I said, and she said, pata nahi. I could not even finish the sentence. And I was completely thrown. I have done hundreds of improvisation. I have performed on the stage thousands of times across the globe. But I haven't found an actor who is so present here and now. Her degree of presence is amazingly, it's like being almost like she almost senses what you're going to say, or what you. She could foresee what's coming, and she did not let me finish the line. It's not that she did not let me finish the line because she didn't want me to, because she knew what I'm going to ask. So she's so perceptive and so silent within that she feels what I'm going to say. And then I was thrown, so I sort of laughed. I've done a lot of improvisations, so I did not show her that I'm thrown off. So I laughed at her. I said, "Tumko pata nahi, abhi kisko pata hoga." I just said it like that, but I was like, oh my God, we'll have fun. We'll have fun in doing this film. And she would come up with suggestions quite often. And she would ask me, am I doing okay? I said, come on, you're 300 film old. Till then I've just done 3 or 4 films. So I've done a lot of theatre, but film-wise. So she was, the word professional, what it actually means, professional means, in the etymology, what do you call that? It means that you keep the word that you have given. That's what it means, professionalism. That publicly you said, I will act in this film, I will be sincere and honest, and she follows that. And she's pretty often extremely silent. She doesn't talk, but she's listening to every word, which is not only word, but the silence itself. So that's why she's so present there. And so people say, oh, she has great timing, but timing is not, she's making it up. It's a consequence of her silence that she comes at the right time. She hears and she responds. So she does not react, she responds. There's a huge difference between these two. Response has the elements of introspection, wisdom, and so these are the elements it has. So her responses are which creates art. Otherwise, reactiveness, if we pull the thread of reaction, then we'll become reactionaries. But she's an artist. So art has to find a way to elevate the perception of the people, those who are witnessing it. So she is in a very quiet space, so that the quietude is infectious. And you listen to her because she is pulling you, the audience, with her quietude. So and that's what I say, that she hasn't been done justice to by Indian film industry at all.
No, Tabu is another extremely talented actress.
Yes.
You had the privilege of working in
Yes.
Life of the Fire.
Yes.
Tell us, what was it like working with her, and how did you get picked like Andy for that role?
I have no idea. One day I get a call from my dearest friend Dilip Shankar, who had been the casting director for India, and he asked me if I was free the next afternoon, and I did not ask. I said yes. And later in the night, I received this, few pages from the script, and I realized it's Life of Pi and will be directed by Ang Lee, and I was like, oh my God, I better prepare. So I read it up several times, learned the lines, and next afternoon I went there. And he just shot me once, 2 scenes, 1 take, and he says, it's very good. I'm like, no, let's do it once more. He said, no, it's good, you're very good. Okay. And after a week, in the middle of the night, they forgot the time differences. So I got a call from the chief casting director. Her name is Kaufman. Said, Ang Lee wants to meet you on the 6th of December in Land's End. Is it possible for you? I was like, yeah, I'll be there. That's the first time I bought air ticket with my own money to go to Bombay to meet Ang Lee. Otherwise I had never bought. And so we met and we spoke. No, there was a funny meeting because he, received me at the door, and there are other people in the room. He says, big sweet. So he received me on the door, and he brings me to the table, and he sits looking at me with a smile and keeps quiet for 30 to 40 seconds. And I'm looking at him. I thought he's going to ask me a question. And he never asked. So I asked him, why are you doing this film? And he said, he answered in details that it was picked up by 7 directors. Nobody decided, nobody sort of felt that it could be made into a film, and then, so he gave me the whole explanation for next 2 to 3 minutes, and then at the end he said, after all, I'm a storyteller, so I'd like to tell the story. And then he asked me to get up, and he takes me to a place where there's more light and held my cheeks with both his hands. He's short, so he's looking up at me like that, and looked into my eyes, and then he says, okay, I'll see you later. And that was my meeting with Ang Lee. So Tabu, I think you're asking about only about.
I think she's also one of the
Yes, she is. She has proved herself to be an amazing actor. And so we met, Tabu, for the first time we met in Hong Kong, in the aircraft. And she came from Bombay, I went from Delhi, and we got into the same flight, Cathay Pacific. And I looked to my left. She did not recognize me because she hasn't seen any of my films. I've just done one before that. And English to English hasn't yet released. So I introduced myself. Hi, Tabu, my name is Adil, and I'm also, I guess, playing your husband in the film. No, she was extremely warm, very, very, and I was a big fan of her work anyways, and so we got along very well, and we used to have fun. We used to go out in the night market and eat this junk food on the streets, and Taiwanese food. We shot in Taiwan most of the film. No, we shot in Taichung, the second largest, the third largest city. But she's, we had a great camaraderie because and she had been in the film industry for a long time. And so we had fun.
You mentioned something about researching into the end of life.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you what your conclusion was, if you have one already.
Yeah, it's an intellectual story, and I believe in the power of the story, and power of the stories. So, like for example, the story about Jesus Christ when he was being crucified, when he said that they don't know what they are doing, Lord, so forgive them. He may or may not have been saying that, or he never existed, but the thought, which makes sense to me completely. So the conclusion for me is that this is not the end of the story when we die. And it is very important for me I found a way to believe in it because it helps me as a person. Because I find a parallel to when I finished doing Othello for 10 years, I performed Othello for 10 years across the globe. And when I finished it, and if someone wants me to perform again, I would say, no, I've done it enough. I'm done with Othello. I don't feel jealous anymore in life. So that means Othello has gifted me one thing, that it has uprooted jealousy from my system. So then you're done with that, something new. So I think the coming back again on the planet is a fantastic and extremely helpful story for me to believe as an actor as well, because it gives me hope that if I have failed this time, I may be able to rectify. It also makes us lazy a little bit. Okay, agle baat dekhenge, is baat kuch nahi hua. But I think if we can understand the urgency of living life, because that is part of acting. In my training, I was trained to believe in the urgency of an action. The 5 Ws, as I was told by Shalini when we were talking recently, a few minutes ago, that 5 Ws, who, when, who, why, and what. And as actors, we had been sort of drilled into that we must answer those questions profoundly. So I thought, why only when I'm acting in front of the camera or on the stage I should answer this question? So I have extended it to my life. Who am I? If I act better if I answer these questions in a given space, I would definitely act better if I answer these questions in life. Who am I? Where have I come from? Where am I going? Who am I? And what am I doing here? And why am I here? And every moment we are governed by these 5 questions. Who am I? I'm here right now talking to you. Where have I come from? Where am I going now? What am I doing here? And the urgency is that, the urgency of time. If I had from now, say it's 9:20, if I had another 3 hours, my questions, my body language would be different. Okay, ask me the question, I have all night, chat and talk. And my speed will be my rhythm of the body, the voice quality will change, everything will change. So then I thought, if the urgency can be brought in, that this is the last moment. This I have gathered from the shamanistic practices. One of the shamanistic practices, that they say the best way to find out, there are other best ways. One of the best ways to find out whether what you're doing is what you really want to do or not. Imagine that death is going to pounce on you from your left any moment. And you ask death before you do anything, that would I do this before I die? And if you can answer that, would I have coffee or tea? I'm not, maybe, before I die, I'd like to have a coffee, though he's offering me tea, I'd like to go for a coffee. I'd like, for example, those who are in the death row, they're asked, what do you want to do before you die? I'd like to smoke a cigarette. So you smoke it fully. You put in every possible energy into the action, because the urgency is there. And that's the fact that I was just sharing with her, that we don't know when we are going to die, but we are going to die for sure. So it's better to prepare and better to be aware at all times that this might be my last moment. On my way back home, I might meet an accident and die. So in the newspaper or wherever it will be, or at least there will be someone informing my dad or my mom or my wife that Adil's last moment was spent in FCC and he was talking about life and death. This is my last moment. Truly believe in it without remorse. So I believed in those stories that I've read, and I made it part of myself. And I try my best to act upon it and to walk the talk that I'm talking about. I don't know if that has answered your question. We can spend all night talking about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so
She-
just on
yes,
a
yes.
slightly different note,
Yes.
what are your views about free speech and art and culture, in light of the recent incidents that have happened?
I think it's fundamental that we must be allowed to speak what we want to speak. Of course, the legalities are man-made, so it can evolve. We have the possibilities to widen the scope of what is illegal and what is legal. And as soon as we put a constraint, like I see our son, growing up, he's 9 years old. He listens to me the best when I really sit down with him and talk to him as his equal and with a lot of respect and humility. I'm not the father figure, but I'm equal to him. And he listens, I whisper into his ear. And he listens to me. Things which he would not otherwise at all if I try to. So I think that the government and the population of citizens, they have to find a way, or the government must respect the citizens as equal. And instead of...
When I'm asking this question, I'm talking specifically of Bollywood,
Oh,
art and culture. So I mentioned free speech in art and culture
yes.
in light of the recent incidences that have happened.
I'm
So
not
we're
quite,
narrowing the scope.
Right, yes, I just read a little bit. I think we must have absolute freedom to speak what we like to speak. And art especially, if we are not allowed to speak what we would like to speak, then I feel that we deprive the audiences from, we deprive them from, we stop their evolution. Because if there is no conflict between ideas, what you believe and what I believe, there will be no possibilities of growth. Conflicts and opposite ideas are very important for human growth, and we are constantly evolving. Evolution cannot stop at a certain age, it constantly evolves, there is no end to it, as I have understood what evolution is all about. Inner evolution, I'm not talking about from a human being to another dimension, I'm just talking about human evolution in terms of its intelligence, how we perceive things, how our awareness can grow limitlessly. So stopping that, and especially art, could have and should have replaced dare I say that, because organized religions have lost its validity, so art could have replaced that, because there we come and we look at ourselves, we reflect upon what life is all about, we put a mirror in front of audience. If you go to see, of course, the kind of, I'm not talking about the commercial arts that you see, but even in those areas where things are changing. For example, I've seen certain films based on issues which were taboo. Now we are talking about it. Menstruation, we are talking about it. Sexuality, we are talking about homosexuality, transgender. I once met Dalai Lama for 15 minutes, and 6:30 in the morning, we had the window, and the first question I asked him, that do you think that world is a better place than 500 years ago? And he, as he is with a lot of humor, he said, on your behalf, I have asked this question to Queen Elizabeth once, long time ago. And I'm not going to imitate him again, but I'm saying, then Queen Elizabeth told me that world is a better place now, because the idea of human rights, human empowerment, child rights, these were not there 500 years ago. So these are there, it's common now in common, we use it very commonly nowadays. So we are evolving, painfully slowly. So free speech is a must, and especially the freedom of art, expression of human beings' finer aspects of of human elements must be allowed to express freely. And I think that's a responsibility for the government, for their betterment, for their security. Because otherwise we'll remain as an unevolved nation. We don't want to be like that.
Agreed. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Adil.
You wanted to ask me
You want to ask a
Are
question?
you done with life and death?
Like
In
Am I
your
done?
movies?
No, I'm still alive. How
No,
can
no,
I be
no.
done?
Are you done with life and death in your movies?
How do you
No,
know?
there's
Will you
a-
revisit the topic of
If I find, because you see, every time they say in the spiritual practices, they say that you do not climb the ladder like that, you climb a spiral ladder. And a spiral ladder always will make you revisit the aspects of the same situation which you have missed. And the situation will arise in front of you again. We will think it is the same, but it's not. It's the same, but one aspect of it, or two or three aspects of it that I have missed last time when I visited. So if a script comes, which some aspects of this particular subject hasn't been touched upon in this film, then I would definitely love to come.
So you haven't come across your Othello movement as far as
No,
different-
I haven't yet. No, till I die, I don't think I will. This is Othello was a very, very unwise and rather juvenile lover.
Okay,
Just.
Adil, thanks very much. We're delighted that you could spare time.
No, I'm very honored. Thank you.
Thanks for showing us this excellent film. In gratitude, we're going to make you an honorary member of the club.
I'm so happy to hear that. I am so happy to hear that.
And also present you with a special gift.
But does it mean that I'm allowed to come here?
Yes,
Because I'm
yes,
not-
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
the bar's
So
open.
you pay for your drinks and
The
all
bar's
that.
open.
Thank you so much.
This is a specially designed mug to celebrate the 60th anniversary of the founding of the Foreign Correspondents Club.
Thank you.
Here it is.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure, absolute pleasure.
Thank you, friends.